eggs feel ordinary. They sit quietly in the fridge, get cracked into pans, baked into cakes, or boiled without much thought. But if you stop and really think about it, eggs are kind of unbelievable. A chicken can produce one almost every single day, sometimes for months at a time, without ever being pregnant. That raises a simple but strange question. How does a chicken's body manage something so frequent, so precise, and so consistent? Unlike most animals, chickens aren't giving birth or raising offspring every day, yet their bodies are running a biological assembly line that rarely takes a break. To understand how this happens, we need to look inside the chicken itself and trace the journey of an egg from the moment it begins as a tiny cell to the moment it lands in a nest box. So let's get into it, right here, on History of Simple Things. Inside a hen's body is a highly specialized reproductive system that works very differently from what we see in mammals. A chicken is born with 2 ovaries, but only the left one ever develops. That single ovary holds thousands of tiny yolks, each one essentially an undeveloped egg waiting its turn. When a hen reaches maturity, her body begins releasing 1 yolk at a time, usually once every 24 to 26 hours. Once released, that yolk enters a long, twisting tube called the oviduct, where the real magic happens. Over the next day or so, the yolk slowly travels through different sections of this tube, and each section adds another layer. First comes the egg white, or albumin, then the inner and outer membranes, and finally the hard shell. By the time the egg reaches the end of the oviduct, it looks exactly like the eggs we recognize, even though no rooster was ever involved. One of the most common misunderstandings about eggs is the belief that a rooster is required for egg laying. In reality, a rooster is only necessary if fertilized eggs are desired. A hen's body produces eggs on its own, much like how humans release eggs during ovulation. When there's no rooster, the egg remains unfertilized, which is exactly what we eat. This is why supermarket eggs never develop into chicks. The process is entirely hormonal, driven by the hen's internal clock rather than mating. In a way, egg laying is simply a chicken's version of a reproductive cycle, just far more visible and frequent than what we're used to in other animals. While a hen doesn't need a rooster to lay eggs, the presence of fertilized eggs can change what she does next. After laying several eggs in the same nest, some hens shift from simply producing eggs to protecting them. This behavior, called brooding, is driven by hormones and instinct, not by the act of mating itself. The hen begins sitting on the eggs to keep them warm, gently turning them with her body and feet so any developing embryos stay healthy. During this time, egg laying usually stops altogether because the hen's focus has moved from making eggs to giving them a chance to hatch, a reminder that beneath the everyday egg is a much older biological purpose. So why almost every day? The answer has a lot to do with light. Chickens are extremely sensitive to daylight, and their egg-laying cycle is regulated by the amount of light they receive. When daylight hits a hen's eyes, it triggers hormonal signals in the brain that tell the ovary to release another yolk. This is why chickens lay more eggs in spring and summer, when days are longer, and fewer in winter when daylight shortens. On farms, artificial lighting is often used to keep hens laying year-round by mimicking long summer days. The almost part comes from timing. Since producing an egg takes slightly more than 24 hours, the laying time shifts later each day until the hen eventually skips a day and resets the cycle. Laying eggs so frequently isn't effortless. Each eggshell is made mostly of calcium, and producing one daily requires a steady supply of minerals and energy. A hen's body pulls calcium from her diet and even her own bones if necessary. This is why egg-laying hens need calcium-rich food, and why older hens eventually slow down or stop laying altogether. Over time, the strain adds up. While wild birds lay eggs only during short breeding seasons, domestic chickens have been selectively bred by humans to produce far more eggs than their ancestors ever did. What looks like a simple daily routine is actually a demanding biological process happening over and over again. Thousands of years ago, chickens didn't lay eggs daily. Their wild ancestors laid small clutches of eggs a few times a year, just enough to reproduce. Through selective breeding, humans gradually favored hens that laid more eggs more often. Generation by generation, this changed the chicken's biology. Modern laying hens are the result of centuries of human influence, shaped to be incredibly efficient egg producers. In a sense, the everyday egg is not just a natural product, but a historical one, reflecting how deeply humans have shaped the animals around them to fit daily life. Despite their reputation, chickens don't lay eggs forever. As hens age, their egg production naturally declines. Some begin laying less frequently after a few years, while others stop entirely. Molting, the process where chickens shed and regrow feathers, also pauses egg production because the body redirects energy elsewhere. Stress, diet, temperature, and health all play a role. The near-daily egg is a peak performance state, not a permanent one, and it only happens when conditions are just right. The next time you crack an egg into a pan, it's worth remembering how much is happening behind the scenes. That egg represents a full day of biological work, guided by light, hormones, evolution, and human history. Chickens don't consciously decide to lay eggs. Their bodies simply follow a rhythm refined over thousands of years. What feels ordinary on our plates is actually the result of one of nature's most efficient routines, happening quietly, almost invisibly, every single day. And that's what makes the simple egg not so simple after all. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.